Hello friends! Today we're going to be doing something a little different, something I've never done here before on my channel, but if you don't follow me on Instagram then you probably don't know that I recently started a Bookstagram, if you will. I'm going to share all of the books that I read in September with you. I'll give you a quick synopsis, quick thoughts on it. I've got my Goodreads up here so that I remember. I read a lot. I'm going to try to make it quick. If you don't follow my Bookstagram then you should. It is at @EmilyTurnsThePage_. You can find it here. It'll be linked down below. It'll be linked in my regular Instagram, which is at EmilyShack with 2 A's. You can find it anywhere. I'm going to try to share them in order. Some of them I have here, some of them I got from the library, so they're returned. All the books will be linked down below if you want to read them, and also my Goodreads will be linked down below if you want to follow me on there as well. And also, if you have any book recommendations based on things that I've shared here, let me know. And one more thing, these are just my opinions. I know people get very serious about their books. I do too. It's just my opinion. It really doesn't matter that much. Okay, so let's get started with the very first book that I read in September, and that is one that I was waiting for months and months and months. Carrie Soto is back. Taylor Dick and Raids can do no wrong in my book. I was so excited to find out that Carrie Soto was getting her own book after Malibu Rising. She was the breakout star from that book. I love the TJR cinematic universe. Basically, Carrie Soto, this is in the 90s. She's in her 30s. She's a retired tennis player. She retired as the greatest of all time, the GOAT. Someone's coming for her title. She decides to come out of retirement and get back into it. She has a reputation of being the bitch of the sport. The theme song of the book is "The Bitch Is Back" by Elton John. Her father is her trainer. You kind of go with her as she tries to defend her titles, keep her record, and kind of just grow as a person. 5 stars, so good. This is the only book I think that could ever get me to care about tennis. I just love Carrie Soto so much, and honestly, with the way that this book ended, I would love a follow-up to it. It was so good. 5 stars. So then we move on to an author who is very contentious, even within my own. You'll see I've got some low stars and I've got some high stars, but Maybe Someday by Colleen Hoover. So basically, this book starts off with your main character, Sydney. She finds out that her boyfriend and her roommate are having an affair. She moves in with a neighbor, starts writing music with him. He has a girlfriend. They fall in love. It's a whole big thing. Drama. She becomes the other woman, basically. I gave this one 3 stars. I just didn't really care too much about the 2 main characters, Sydney and Ridge. I thought that they were really boring. There was way more interesting characters in this book that I would have rather the book had been about. It was okay. It was just okay. This one. I thought my little sister was going to kill me when I did this one. This is Nightbitch. I picked this up at a bookstore, having no idea what it was. I was just intrigued by the cover. None of the characters are named. There's the mother, who was an artist. She puts her career on hold to stay at home with her newborn son. She's got a husband who's always traveling for work. And when the son is like 2, she starts becoming a dog at night. And like she kills rabbits and she eats raw meat, and then the boy thinks he's a dog too, and then it turns into a big art performance where all the moms in town, I didn't get it. I didn't get it. I didn't like it. I felt like the mother was a pseudo-feminist, the husband was a jerk, the boy was disgusting. I did not like it. I didn't get it. Maybe you can explain it to me. I don't know. I didn't get it. I didn't like it. This was a 1-star read for me. Back to Miss Colleen Hoover. We've got some people's favorites, not mine, November 9th. This one, the whole premise is that Ben and Fallon meet on November 9th. She's about to move across the country. They make a pact where for the next 5 November 9ths, they're going to come together and have a date, but they don't talk for the rest of the year. There's a twist. Ben's a novelist. She could possibly be the twist in his novel. Yeah, I don't know. It was another one where I just like really didn't care about the characters. I like the premise of only meeting the characters on November 9th, but I wish that we saw more of them during the year so you could connect with them more, because you only meet them for 5 days out of this entire book, and so much happens in between that you're trying to figure out through miscommunication, and it was just confusing, and it felt a little, I don't know, it felt a little drab. They're 18 when they meet. I'm not big into insta love. It just wasn't for me. Okay, and then we move on to the book that I could not stop thinking about still. This is a man who just... The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. I loved this book, and I don't care how basic that makes me. So basically, you've got PhD student Olive. She was dating this guy that she wasn't interested in. She broke up with him. Her best friend is now interested in the guy, but the best friend won't go for the guy because she thinks that Olive is still interested in him. So to get her best friend to go out with the guy, she kisses the first guy she sees, who happens to be Dr. Adam Carlson, who is the department grump. I love a grumpy sunshine. I love an age gap. I love a fake dating ploy. They go on a whole fake dating thing. Adam is just... I just loved it. I just loved it. I don't want to give too much away, but I mean, Adam is one of those book boyfriends that you just can't get out of your head. I love when a guy falls so hard. This was a really good read. I just loved it. And there's a bonus chapter from his perspective, and I would love this entire book from his perspective. Honestly, I don't usually read books like that, but I would take an entire book from Adam's perspective. Loved him. So the next one I don't actually have physically with me. I got it from the library. It is A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas. This is huge on BookTok, Bookstagram. This whole series is very popular. I read A Court of Thorns and Roses, and I was not impressed. I was just like, okay. I'm not really a fantasy person to begin with, so like I was kind of like, eh. I was more interested in like the romance part of it, and I just wasn't big on the big love interest. I really wasn't. And I didn't miss, but I kind of like ignored the cues that maybe things were going to be changing from the first book because I just wasn't interested in it very much. I wasn't planning on picking up the next book in the series, but I'm not a quitter, so I picked up A Court of Mist and Fury anyway, and I'm so glad that I did. It is so much better than A Court of Thorns and Roses. I don't really want to give too much away since it's the second book of a series, but basically it's just so much better. Feyre goes to the Night Court. She kind of really discovers herself outside of everything that happened under the mountain, and with Tamlin. She finds her found family, and it's really just beautiful. I blew through 600 pages like it was nothing. So that was a big old 5-star read for me. Next up, I read Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. This book was so fun. It was an alternate universe where the first woman president has a son and a daughter, and then there's a Prince of England, and they are, the son and the Prince of England are enemies. They're sworn enemies. There's an altercation at the prince's sister's wedding, or prince's brother's wedding, and they have to do some PR damage control to make the world think that they're friends because it's a whole international relations thing. And turns out the prince is gay. The first son finds out he's bi, and love and hilarity ensues. It was so impractical. It was so ridiculous. It was so of a partisan kind of world that I wish we could actually live in. Did it make a lot of sense? No. But did I love it anyway? Absolutely. I gobbled that shit up. 5 stars. And then I moved on to back to Miss Colleen Hoover. She was a lot of this month. Verity. So basically, Lowen, she's a struggling writer. She gets propositioned by Jeremy Crawford to finish his wife's series that she was writing, Verity Crawford. She was in an accident. She can't do it anymore. So Lowen goes to their house to go through Verity's manuscripts and figure out how to finish the series, and she ends up finding an unpublished autobiography that Verity never meant for anyone to read, and it reveals a lot of shit. A lot of shit. And it's bone-chilling, the kind of things that Verity writes about. And so then Lowen is struggling with the fact that the Verity and Jeremy might not be all that they seem. There's child death involved, which is awful. It's a psychological thriller. I did not think Colleen Hoover had it in her after all the other books of hers that I've read. I really didn't. But this was a 5-star read for me. It was really, really good. This is another one I don't want to say too much because if you know, you know, and if you don't, I don't want you to know because I want you to read it. But I'm full on team manuscript, and I've read the extra chapter, and I'm still team manuscript. Five stars. Gosh, if I thought Dr. Adam Carlson was love on the brain, Allie Hazelwood. I am a sucker for her weird, quirky women. They're just dorky in a way that I am obsessed with. B. Königswasser, I don't know how to say her name. She gets pulled into this project with NASA, but it turns out the person that she has to work with is this doctor from when she was a PhD candidate who really hated her, and it's pretty obvious right up front that he never hated her. He was in love with her the whole time, and she was the only one who couldn't see it, which is a very annoying trope, but like for some reason I love it with this. They work together, and then it turns into more than that, and just there's a whole twist with this one. There's some crazy shit that goes on. B and Levi are Adam and Olive without all the awkwardness, all of the spice and sexual tension. There's something very poetic about the way that Allie wrote these two characters. It's very hot. There you go. I liked it a lot. It was the perfect amount of spice with love story and plot. Enough to make you like, but not so much that it's the whole deal. This was another 5-star read for me. I love the whole women in STEM thing. I love her big, tall, grumpy doctor men with 5 stars. Okay, and then I read the Honey Don't list by Christina Lauren. This book, I forget their names of the two characters, but it's basically a riff on Chip and Joanna Gaines, this couple. They have like their HGTV show, and they redo houses, and he makes wood work, and it follows their 2 assistants, and the marriage is falling apart, and the assistants have to try to keep it together because they're on a book tour, and the assistants end up getting together, and then more drama happens, and there's a crime that happens, and throughout the book you're reading police investigations of this crime and trying to figure out what's going on, and it was fine. It was okay. I didn't care enough about any of the characters to remember any of their names, except for the married couple, Rusty and Melly, and that's only because I hated them so much, but it was like a love to hate them kind of thing. Yeah, it was a really quickly resolved ending. Christina Lauren is hit or miss for me, like full on hit or miss. It's either nah or loved it, and this one was it was okay. It was fine. It was a quick read. I wouldn't read it again. And then I got into A Court of Wings and Ruin, which is the next book in the A Court of Thorns and Roses series. This one really gets into the impending war that the first 2 books have been talking about. There's a twist at the end of A Court of Mist and Fury that kind of unravels in the beginning of this book, and then there's just a lot of war, and it's hard to get into the plot because I don't want to give too much away if you haven't read it and you're interested in it, but I really liked it. This was one that's maybe a little contentious in the fandom of whether it was too much of something or not enough of another thing. And I thought that they did a really good job of the world building and the explaining the alliances and why certain people would come together and why certain people would go the other way, and 5 stars. I liked it. And then I picked up my very first reverse harem, Nanny for the Neighbors. So basically, this is a found baby, surprise baby story. There's 3 guys who live down the hall or upstairs or whatever. Jack, Cyrus, and Sebastian. They have a history of sharing women, and one of said women has a baby and leaves it on their doorstep. They don't know which ones it is, so they run to their neighbor who happens to be a nanny. She comes to help them out. She, as the back of the book says, she takes care of the baby during the day, and they take care of her at night. And boy, do they take care of her at night. This'll make you blush. It'll make you blush. The plot's a little, is it plausible? Probably not. Did I eat it up anyway? Absolutely. Did I order every other book that this author has ever read immediately after finishing it? Yes I did. It's an interesting dynamic, the three boyfriends thing, and I can't say that I hate it. I liked that it had multiple point of views, so you read not only Beth, the nanny, but also everything from Jack and Cyrus and Sebastian's view as well. And I mean, what's better than one hot boyfriend? Three hot boyfriends, obviously. 5 stars. It was, watch your kids away from 5 stars. Okay, and then I read Maybe Not, which is a novella based on Maybe Someday. We talked about that earlier. This one is 120 pages. It focuses on Ridge's roommate Warren and his girlfriend Bridget, how they kind of get together, how their whole relationship that you kind of see part of in Maybe Someday pans out. And my biggest gripe with this book is that Warren and Bridget are so much more interesting than Ridge and Sydney, and I would have loved way more information on the two of them. I wish that it was an actual novel and not just a novella. And because it was so short, there was a lot of sex scenes, which normally doesn't bother me, except that I wanted to know more about them. So I wish there was less sex and more Warren and Bridget, or just more book in general. So I gave it 3 stars because it just wasn't enough. So then I read The Final Girls Support Group, which I had very, very high hopes for. The premise of this is that you've got a bunch of final girls, which if you're into horror, you know, the last girl who is left after all of her friends are murdered. She's sitting in the back of the ambulance. She's the sole survivor. And they form a support group to kind of deal with their trauma. And there's so many interesting final girls in this book, but you only get the point of view of the one who, again, I don't remember her name, which just goes to show how much I cared about this book. She's really paranoid, and I mean, obviously, if you had gone through the horrible things that she had gone through, you would understand why she's paranoid. But she's also got a bit of imposter syndrome because she wasn't technically a final girl. She just survived. She didn't fight to survive. She just survived. So she's got imposter syndrome from that. I don't know, you get into it and you kind of realize where it's going, and it was really easy to figure out what was happening. And I don't like to not finish books, but I just didn't finish it because I just wasn't interested in it. I mean, I did finish it, but I wanted to not finish it because I wasn't interested in it because I knew where it was going. It was basically like if Sidney Prescott from Scream went insane and also had no personality. So that was a 1-star read for me. It was a shame because I was really looking forward to that one. But then we move back to Miss Colleen Hoover and Ugly Love. And I went into this book with low expectations because very rare that Colleen follows through for me. And throughout the book, there were so many times that I wanted to hate it because basically you've got Miles and Tate, and he's her brother's friend and he lives across the hall. And they have an attraction, but he doesn't want a relationship, so they agree to just like a just sex only kind of thing. But then he's very clearly like falling for her, but then pulling back. You think he's just kind of a douchebag. You know that something's going on because it's told in the past and present, and in the past he was very in love with this girl Rachel, who then turns out to end up being his stepsister, which is a whole other weird thing that I could have done without. You know something happened with them, and that's what's causing him to act this way, but I don't know. I kind of thought that I knew where the book was going to go, and then I just didn't. I had no idea what that twist was going to be, and it gutted me, and it really helped me to understand. Once you hit the twist, everything else unravels itself, and you really get why Miles was acting the way that he was. It just comes together really beautifully at the end, and I really, really loved it. So that was a 5-star for me. So that was 2 5 stars from Colleen this month. Good girl. And we're back to Christina Lauren. So hit or miss for me, their books. This my favorite Half Night Stand. I went in with low expectations because that's just what I've been doing when I read their books these days. It was okay. I finished the book because I wanted to know how it ended, but I didn't care about any of the characters. So basically you've got Millie and her 4 guy friends, whose names I don't remember. And they have this gala that they have to go to, and they need dates. So they go on a dating app, but then she can't get any dates because she's weird and quirky and like studies serial killers. So then she uses her middle name and a picture of her from the side and makes a different profile, and then one of her friends matches with her, and then she catfishes him, and everybody in this book sucked. There was way too many characters. I couldn't keep track of any of them. None of them were interesting. None of what was happening was interesting. It just, like, I wanted to see how the catfishing got resolved. That's why I finished the book, but it had very Big Bang Theory vibes. Very, like, quirky elder millennial doesn't know how to internet. I write tit instead of it, and that's my quirky. So I moved on to My Killer Vacation. This was my very first Tessa Bailey. Basically, Taylor takes her little brother on a vacation to Cape Cod. They get to their rental. They see that there's 2 peepholes in the ceiling, which creep them out. They start to look around the rest of the rental. The sister of the deceased brings in a bounty hunter to help solve the mystery. Bounty hunter is grumpy, non-committal, I will never fall in love. Miles. Taylor is Sunshine, 2nd grade teacher who wants to kind of explore her sexuality, and they explore her sexuality big time. I was a sucker for this because I love a grumpy Sunshine. It was a semi-slow burn because they keep getting cock-blocked. So it happens quickly, but it takes a while to get to the good stuff. And I love a non-committal man who has to commit so hard for that one, would do anything, would kill for. And plus the murder and the crime and all that stuff is an interesting subplot to keep you intrigued around all the romance, and it was just really sweet. And I liked the epilogue. I wish we had more after the epilogue. I could do with a few more years of these two. They were, I mean, just look at that cover. They're so sweet. And then I read After I Do by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This was my first pre-Seven Husbands TJR book, so it's not part of the TJR cinematic universe. I really liked it anyway. So basically you follow this couple, Lauren and Ryan. They meet when they're in college and they fall in love and they get married, and then a decade later they're not happy. Shit's going wrong. They're just, everything in their relationship is just not good, and they decide to do a year separation where the only rule is that they don't talk to each other for 1 year. They can date other people, they can do whatever they want, they just can't talk to each other. And it's so written so well because you get it from Lauren's perspective, but you also really understand where Ryan's coming from. Taylor Jenkins Reid does a really good job of doing that, like without having to enact multiple point of views, to be able to get you to get into the mind of all of the characters and understand why they make the decisions that they make. And it really lays out like a lot of insecurities that I think come with being married, and it was just really, really beautifully written, and TJR can do no wrong in my book. It was a 5-star read. And because I just like to hurt myself and waste my own time, I moved on to Maybe Now by Colleen Hoover. So this picks up right after Maybe Someday it leaves off. Okay, spoiler for Maybe Someday. Sydney and Ridge get together, and his ex-girlfriend Maggie is dying, basically. And I thought that this book was going to be more focused on Maggie, because that's what it kind of says on the back. Maggie comes across a list of maybe one of these days bucket list that she'll do because she thinks she's not going to live very long. She goes skydiving, she meets this hot doctor. That's the story that I thought I was getting into. There was way too much Sydney and Ridge in this. I just really didn't care about them. Like, I didn't care about them the first time around. I didn't care about them this time around. I love Warren and Bridget. I love Maggie and Jake. I wish there was more of them. I didn't care about Ridge and Sydney and her insecurities about being the other woman. Like, just was stupid. And then the ending was really stupid. It was very... This was written for Wattpad originally, and you can tell. It's got big fan fiction. Like, it's just not good. And the last book that I finished in the month of September, A Court of Frost and Starlight by Sarah J. Maas. This is a little novella. Everything on the internet told me that I was supposed to hate this book, but I didn't. I don't know why people hated on it so much. It was a cute little novella. So basically it's like, it's a holiday book. It's the winter solstice. It's the Christmas of the Night Court. Farah and Riz are still getting used to everything that's changed after the war. You've got multiple point of views from some of the side characters, and you see how it sets up where the rest of the series is going to go from here. It kind of sets up Nesta and everything that's going on with her and Elaine, and it was just fun. I mean, we just read 2,000 pages of like war and destruction. Like, why can't we just read a little holiday fun? I liked it. I gave it 5 stars. People are too jaded. I don't know. So that's everything I read in September. If you can't tell, I was using fiction to get away from my own life. I hope you guys liked this. I kind of liked doing it. Again, if you're interested in reading, you should follow my Bookstagram, Emily Turns Page _, or just follow my regular Insta. And I think I'm gonna do this again for October because it is October 4th and I've already read 4 books. So I just wanted to give this a try. So let me know if you guys like it, if you want more of this, if you would rather have like individual book breakdowns, or if a monthly recap is good. Let me know in the comments down below, and I will see you very, very soon right here with my little chicken nugget in my next video. Say bye. Bye. Bye.